and Academy of Hair Design located at 5191 West Charleston Boulevard, number 150. Today, to begin your career in cosmetology, there is something for everyone from cosmetology to nail technology. You will be able to have the hands-on training that is needed to succeed in this career field. Call 702-878-1185 or visit www.ahdvegas.com today.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a cloudy Monday here in the Valley. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully those of you that switched over perhaps to my personal YouTube page, you might be listening on the AM/FM dial KSHP. We got Chris Winn in studio. Congratulations to Bill, who won a pair of tickets to see Jersey Boys at the Orleans showroom. And the good news is we're giving away a pair of tickets every day this week. So,
any truth to the rumor that he got a pair of Trump kicks with that as well too?
No, that is fake news. That is not true. That is fake news. Maybe a signed pair of Brian Shapiro golden sneakers.
There you go.
Yeah. But Chris Winn joining us in the house, and we haven't had. There's so much going on in the world, news-wise, political-wise.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So sometimes I don't even get an opportunity to do a full segment on national sports, local sports. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to finally let the show breathe a little bit and be able to, because this show is not just a political show. I'd like to talk about other topics, but there's so much going on. So Chris and I were able to attend the UNLV basketball game, right. Nevada Reno in town, Steve Alford and the boys in town. And these conference tournaments are right around the corner. March Madness is right around the corner. We have Kevin Kruger on a lot. And UNLV has been playing some pretty good basketball as of late. They had won 5 in a row in conference, which is quite the accomplishment. It's a pretty good conference. This was a big game, and I would argue probably the biggest game of the year for UNLV. When your in-state rival, Nevada, comes into town, you want to take care of business. Mm-hmm. And for about 37 minutes of that basketball game, UNLV was taking care of business. Pretty good job defensively. Offense looked pretty good. And they had a 9-point lead late in the second half, and they blew it for a couple different reasons, Chris. Number one, when you're up 8 or 9 points, it seems like UNLV, they take the air out of the ball, and they don't put the pedal to the metal, so to speak. They were trying to just hang on, do what it takes just to win the game, instead of putting the pedal to the metal. And I've seen UNLV do this before. Number two, offense, very predictable. Thomas is a wonderful player, and he's only a freshman. He's like 18 years old. But you put a lot of pressure on this young man when the ball is always in his hands. They just don't move the basketball enough. At least they didn't late in the second half, and it was very predictable. Number three, Boone misses a pair of free throws. Boone's a great shooter, and he misses a pair of free throws. I don't think he's missed back-to-back free throws all year. And then Thomas gets fouled, down by 1, 2 free throws with under 30 seconds to go. I'm not as surprised at Thomas missing both as I was with Boone. But you miss the so you're missing free throws. The offense looks stagnant. And on the other side, I'm going to give Steve Alford a lot of credit because Nevada did not play their best basketball. They didn't play, and this is a good basketball team. They haven't lost many games all year. I think they've lost, 4 or 5 games all year. Alfred called some key timeouts late in the game, some really good offensive sets where double screens, guys screening to the basket, and they got what they want, and they scored when they needed to. It's a horrible loss for UNLV, not because Nevada's not a good basketball team. They are. Mm-hmm. But it's the way they lost, Chris. You're up for just about the entire game. You blow a big lead late in the second half against your in-state rival. And I hate to say this because I really like Kevin Kruger as a person. He's a really good guy. He's an easy guy to root for. But I think late in the game, a part of why they lost was coaching. Alford is a better coach. He got Noodles as his assistant. They drew up better stuff down the stretch. They looked like a team that was had more leadership. And I just feel like it came down to a couple things. Missed free throws, of course. But I thought it came down to coaching, too. When you look at a lot of close games, whether it be in professional baseball, basketball, college basketball, in this case, even the NBA, close games, coaching really matters. That's when it matters the most. And I just felt like Steve Alford did a good job late in the game. And right, really disappointing loss, Chris, for UNLV.
Yeah, a couple observations. I want to get a little back and forth with you here on this because when you're UNLV, right, and you have a winning streak like they had going into that matchup against your arch rival at home. I mean, you have the best crowd that was at the Thomas and Mack all season long. There's a lot of positive anticipation, right? when that takes place. There is an expectation, oh, we can continue this streak. We can continue going in the right direction. And that's a positive thing, not just for the players on the team, but for Kevin Kruger and his staff. And in the first half, it looked like, all things were clicking for UNLV. They looked like a solid basketball team. They were a team that, look, going into it, Vegas had them a small favorite in the basketball game. So it wasn't any shock whatsoever that the Runnin' Rebels were actually on top in this game in the first half. And then in the second half, as you talked about, they actually had 2 double-digit leads in the second half.
Right.
And but then things just changed basically around the 10-minute mark. Ironically, when you had a situation in which both teams, definitely UNLV was already in the bonus, but Nevada was getting close to the bonus as well, too, right around that 10-minute mark. And then down the stretch, UNLV started to play like they didn't want to lose, really, is kind of the way I'll describe it, just in a general sense. Now, look, you got to give credit to the likes of Nick Davidson. Yeah, he was solid for them down the stretch, down low in the paint for them. And also Jared Lucas as well, too, was a guy that was knocking down big shots and ended up being the difference in the end of the game because he had a bunch of free throws at the end of the game that ended up closing things out for the Wolfpack. And by the way, both Jared Lucas and Blackshear, who didn't have a great game but did end up in double digits, I think they were combined 10 for 10 from the free throw line in the second half.
Yeah.
So that right there is an indication. You brought up the situation with the 2 players missing free throws. I'm not going to be so cordial to them, okay? You're a Division I college basketball player. You got to knock down one of those free throws, both of those players, whether you're Boone or whether you're DJ Thomas in that situation, and especially DJ. Come on. You're supposed to be a guy that's supposed to have NBA-esque talent. You're somebody that can maybe play in the league in the future. I get it that you're young. I understand that you're, basically could still be in high school. But in that situation where you need to make one free throw essentially, and this game goes to overtime, one of those guys has to make a free throw there. So I'm not going to just completely absolve them of anything at the end of that basketball game. But I will say this, again, another general response. When you have Steve Alford coaching against the likes of Kevin Kruger, it's a mismatch. I'm sorry, it just is. Okay, Kevin Kruger, I think, is a great guy. Okay, but he has a lot to learn when it comes to being a head coach at the Division I level of college basketball. I understand who his father is. I understand the family and all that. But when you're going up against the likes of Steve Alford, you got to pull out kind of a rabbit out of a hat sometimes. And he was not able to do it in the second half. And I thought he was flat out outcoached in this basketball game, and it showed down the stretch. And
here's what's disappointing.
Nevada was able to come out with a win.
Here's what's more disappointing to me, and I've talked about this with you and others, is that UNLV's got talent, right? The Boone brothers are really good college basketball players. You got one kid who is just lights out from 3, great shooter, and then you got the other kid in the post,
Whaley.
Whaley's good as well. Boone and Whaley are really good post players. And listen, we all know how good the point guard is. Okay, we all know that. We all know that Thomas is an exceptional player at his age. But at the same time, you're putting a lot of pressure on him. I just think their offense, when they really need to score, they seem to struggle a little bit, and I think that's an issue. The problem now is that every game is just so important, right? Every game is so important down the stretch here because, we're kind of all clumped together in this conference, and you don't want to be in the playing game in the Mountain West Conference tournament, and hopefully they're not. But listen, you got to destroy Air Force. Don't just beat Air Force on the road. You have to destroy them because we remember what Air Force did here. Let me ask you this: do you think that this could solidify the deal for Kevin Kruger? Because I feel like this was a really important game, not just for UNLV, but for Kevin. You have to beat Nevada at home, and it's just the way they lost. Do you think this could be the nail in the coffin for Kevin as far as maybe a coaching change?
It's certainly one of the nails in the coffin, I think. No question about it. We kind of opined on this on Saturday night after the game, you, myself, as well as Brian Feldman. We talked about this. I'm not going to sit here right now and say that it's a foregone conclusion that he's out the door, but you just talked about the bunching up in this conference. Right now, UNLV, 2 games over 500 in the conference at 7-5. They're 14-10 overall, 7th in the conference right now. But I mean, this is a program. Look, let's be 100% honest here. It's a program that has played a number of times in the play-in game in the Mountain West Conference. It is a team that has not seen the postseason since 2013 when they lost to Cal in that NCAA tournament game. And so, I mean, they're just. I understand that. Again, I go back to Saturday night. There was a ton of optimism before this game tipped off. Then there was even more optimism in the first half after seeing what the Runnin' Rebels were able to do against their arch rival, a team that is one of the best teams in the Mountain West Conference, right? And it was just deflating, I think, when it came to the final 20 minutes of that basketball game. And then you see the reaction, and this is what I wanted to bounce off you, Brian. Your reaction to Kevin Kruger after the basketball game. It seems to me it is a little bit distressing, all right, from my standpoint, my opinion, that it's almost every game that they lose in some way, shape, or form, that it's an embarrassment, right? Whether it was the Air Force game, whether it was the Southern game, whether it's other games that they've lost. It's almost like he goes to the exact same dialogue every single time. It's a defeated attitude that I feel like is coming off of him. He'll go to the, it's not the way that we wanted to end this thing. It just doesn't seem to me like he's someone who is in the best position, I guess is the way I'm going to describe it, to be a head coach at UNLV. And I'm not so confident that down the stretch he's going to be, he and his staff are going to be able to get the ball rolling with these guys and get them in a position where they can be successful in the Mountain West tournament.
So what was your question? Because I forgot.
So the question, I just want to get your general. So basically, I want to get your.
Was there a question
thoughts.
in there? I don't know.
Well, yeah, there was. I want to get your general thoughts on what you think about Kevin Kruger and kind of his demeanor, right, in these types of situations where they lose games that they're supposed to win.
I hate to say this, but I'll make a correlation to Josh McDaniels after they would lose a Raider game, where it'd be the same answer, where Josh McDaniels. And by the way, I think Kevin Kruger's a better basketball coach than Josh McDaniels was a football coach.
That could be true.
But after every loss, the Raiders, Josh McDaniels would say he's like a robot, right?
Yeah.
Say, we just need to be better. We need to get back. We need to work. We need to be better. We didn't play well enough to win. It was like the same answer. That's not what you want to see from a coach. Kevin's a likable guy. The players play hard for him. It's not an issue where I think UNLV's not playing hard. They are playing hard. And for the most part, for at least 37 minutes of that game, they were pretty darn good defensively. But sometimes, 37 minutes isn't enough. You got to play a full solid 40, I guess, especially when it's against your in-state rival and a very well-coached team. Nevada's a very well-coached team. They didn't play very well, but it was a very well-coached team. So to answer your question to the best of my ability, that's the way I would, describe it. Another thing that I don't understand is, Rob Whaley Jr., he scored 44 points in the last 3 games. Did Whaley even touch the ball offensively in the last couple minutes of that game?
Not at all.
You're setting up a pick and roll. It's interesting because I asked you this question in their last possession, and I said, I'll tell you what they're going to do. It's going to be a pick and roll, right, with Boone, and your starting point guard. Why am I drawing a blank here?
With DJ
Thomas. Yeah. I said, and then you said, well, it should be with Whaley. And I said, well, yeah, it should be because Whaley's had a more productive game because I think Whaley on a pick and roll is athletic enough to be able to make a play. But I told you it was going to be with Boone because Kevin Kruger's offense is very predictable, very similar to Dave Rice. I love Dave Rice as a person. Great guy. He was in studio here several months back.
Right.
Dave Rice, his offense was very predictable. They had basically one play, a high pick and roll screen. You're putting so much pressure on your freshman point guard, where he has to be the playmaker every single time. So, yeah, I think his offense is very predictable. I think his defense at times is very, very good. Winning 5 in a row in the conference is good. They've had some good wins. They went to the Pit, and they beat New Mexico on the road. Earlier this year, they beat a nationally ranked Creighton team. They've had some nice wins, but as nice as some of their wins are, they've had some horrendous losses. The first game of the year, do I have to bring that up? And then, of course, to me, even just as bad as that, the only win that Air Force has in the Mountain West Conference is on the road at UNLV. They lost by 40 or 50? I mean, they got thumped. And I know Kevin doesn't want people to focus on that, but we have to, okay? Because come March, selection committee, if they're even in question, forget about the NCAA tournament, the NIT, committee's going to look at those. Those are really bad losses. So I think and I've said this before and I'll say it again, if Kevin doesn't get invited to at least the NCAA tournament or NIT is being very kind. And if you can't win a couple games in the Mountain West Conference tournament, and I'm not counting the playing game, then I think Harper's going to have a decision to make. And it doesn't feel good saying that, okay? It doesn't. I'm not okay. It felt good for me personally when Marvin Menzies was fired because the guy he's not a good coach, and I don't think he's a very good person. I'll be open and say that about Marvin Menzies. Don't like Marvin Menzies. Kevin's a great guy. You say he's a really nice guy. Yeah. And his father is a legend. They have a wonderful family. I want this to work. I want Kevin to stay here. Let's take some phone calls here on this. We're talking a little bit of UNLV hoops now. Your thoughts on the game over the weekend. 702-221-7283. And again, that number 702-221-7283. Let's go to Fernando. Fernando, what's up?
Hey, Fernando.
Hey, guys. Good show, good topics. This phone call might hurt some ears, but I'm going to say the truth. We all know Kevin got the job because of his dad, nepotism. Kevin never really coached a junior high team, a high school team, a JC team. He was just on the bench with his dad learning. And we all know, did you see those bags underneath Kevin's eyes? They're getting bigger and bigger. But, that's all it's about, nepotism. And I haven't watched one game at all, UNLV basketball. I just can't. It's not worth it to me.
Well,
and I don't go to the game. I don't go to the games no more either. Just can't do it.
Well, I will say this though. Numchuck, can we get? I think I can't hear myself. I still can't hear myself. There we go. There we go. That's a little better. Thank you. I will say this: the crowd was pretty good. It should be good, but it was the only game where it was the only. Right? No, I agree with you. It was the only game where you actually felt a student presence, and that's unacceptable. When you go to Air Force, by the way, Air Force has only won one game in conference all year. The fans, particularly the students, show up. Colorado State, those games are loud. We all know how good it is at the Pit. I'm not blaming the adults that are not students for showing up. Yeah. I'm not blaming people like you, Fernando. I'm blaming the students. I'm blaming the students for not showing up consistently. But with that being said,
they want to see winning teams.
Yeah, well, I understand that. I get that. But students should still show up, in my opinion, regardless. So do you think this is it for Kevin?
If they don't win the tournament, he's done. Chris, you owe me a new pair of earbuds from last week because you blew out my earbuds. You owe me a new pair, buddy.
And Fernando, I'll respond to the hiring of Kevin Kruger.
You're not even going to respond to that cheap shot?
I couldn't hear it.
He said that you owe him a new pair of earbuds because you blew out his ears last week when you were on the show.
Fernando, I'm very loud. And I get over the top sometimes. But you talked about Kevin Kruger and him getting hired, right? You characterize it. Look, we can be Captain Obvious and say, your dad was a legendary college basketball coach and coached in the NBA for a little bit, so that's probably led to it. But my thinking, this is my opinion, as to why UNLV hired Kevin Kruger, they approached it as a glass half full type thing, right? They said, you know what, Kevin, even though he's not been a head coach, he has been an assistant on the bench at Oklahoma, right? He has played for his dad. So the idea when it came to Desiree Reed-Francois, right, and the powers that be at UNLV was, you know what, we think he'll succeed here. You'd have to be a complete clueless buffoon if that wasn't your mindset going into hiring Kevin Kruger. So that's the way I would characterize it as to why they did it. Now, look, I agree. I think it hasn't been a good hire. I think that at the end of the day, if he does get bounced out at the end of the season because they don't make an NIT or heaven forbid they make a tremendous run and then somehow end up in the NCAA tournament, I think that he is out because I think Eric Harper was never his guy. I mean, Eric Harper did not hire him. So I think that's going to come into play, and then we can all be Monday morning quarterbacks, right? The next day we can say, oh, yeah, we all knew that it was wrong to hire Kevin Kruger. But I think the mindset when it came to UNLV wasn't necessarily, oh, yeah, we're just going to hire you because you're Lon Kruger's kid. It was more like, we think he can do something here. So that's why I think they pulled the trigger on Kevin Kruger.
He didn't climb the ladder in the coaching ranks. But another thing is, we need to go to the Big 12 conference. We need to get that conference money. And did you guys see the announcement today that the Big 12 Media Day is going to be at Allegiant Stadium this year?
I did see that.
See that.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. We have everything.
We have to go to a Big 12. We have to go to the Big 12. We have to. Get out of Mountain West. It's weak. And everything.
So other than San Diego State and what they've been able to accomplish every year, particularly last year, which was an unbelievable run, I would tend to agree with you where the Mountain West seems to underperform in the NCAA tournament every year. What San Diego State did last year was unbelievable. Dutch has done an incredible job. But these other teams, they're one and done in the tournament. Utah State, Boise State, Colorado State, they never do anything in the tournament. So I would agree with you. The last time, they made any headlines besides last year, San Diego State, was obviously when they had Jimmer Fredette and Kawhi Leonard. But other than that, I agree with you. Over the course of the last decade, at the Mountain West Conference, we keep saying, how great the conference is. And listen, the conference is really good this year, but they're beating each other up. And what are they going to do in March? That's my question.
I'm thinking with Loyola Chicago, the Ramblers. This is Gene's team.
Well, we will see.
What.
We will see, my friend. Good luck.
They
Good luck.
would beat the Rebels by 25.
They
Loyola.
might. They probably would. They probably would.
They would.
Chris owes you a pair of headbuds, and if I see any on sale, I'll make sure he buys you a pair. Okay, Fernando? Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
take care,
Fernando.
guys. Take it easy. Bye.
Update: the Vegas Golden Knights are playing an afternoon game in San Jose
They're lambasting the Sharks.
because of President's Day. And what a great first period. My goodness, 3 goals, 3-0 VGK up. And listen, the Golden Knights have been injury-plagued as of late.
Yep.
They have a big game, correct me if I'm wrong, Thursday against Edmonton, right?
No, they're playing
who are
the
they playing?
Toronto Maple
Toronto.
Leafs. No, they're playing the Nashville Predators tomorrow night here, and then they're playing the Toronto Maple Leafs on Thursday.
Are you going to the game tomorrow night?
I am going to the game tomorrow. Yes.
Okay.
But Vegas. It's been actually there was an illness that went through the team. There was they had I don't know if it was the flu or some kind of mono or something was going through the roster. So there was a ton, Brian Shapiro and Numchuck, of Henderson Silver Knights on the ice, and there actually is still today in this matchup against San Jose, but not hurting them as all. As offensively, they have come to play in this hockey game against the lowly San Jose Sharks.
I was going to ask you this: what do you make of Coach Pierce hiring his son to be on the staff? He's getting criticized for that. What do you think?
You're talking about the Raiders?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anything about his son. So that's you kind of I haven't had a chance to kind of check that out.
I figured you're Chris Winn. You know what's going on in the local sports world.
I didn't even know that he has a son. So
By the way,
I don't want to opine on something that I'm not aware of.
By the way, Morelli was called up to play for the Vegas Golden Knights today. Mason Morelli, and he just scored his first NHL goal in his first game.
Great to see, right?
That's quite a story to tell.
How many first goals ever in the NHL did you see as a Hartford Whalers fan growing up, Shapiro? And going to the
first NHL goal?
What is now the XL Center, but used to be the Hartford Civic Center.
You're asking me first NHL goal as a Hartford Whaler?
Hartford Whalers that were young guys, right? I'm not talking about guys like Ron Francis and Brandon Shanahan, who went there and already had 150 goals. I'm talking about do you remember specifically any young guys that had that historic moment?
What I'm trying to remember is their names. I remember their faces.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Jeff O'Neill is one name that comes to mind. Jeff O'Neill was called up from the Springfield Falcons, and I believe it was his second or third game where he scored his first NHL goal. Mm-hmm. So Jeff O'Neill is Nelson Emerson is another guy that scored, I believe, his first goal as a Hartford Whaler, but most of the guys on the Whalers were veteran guys.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of younger guys on the Whalers that were being called up a lot. We had a lot of veteran guys, and of course, a little Hartford Whaler and Vegas Golden Knight history for you. And what a wonderful job he's done. Sean Burke is the Vegas Golden Knights goaltender coach.
He is.
The head goaltender coach.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about all the injuries and everything that this team has been through just in that position, and the job that Sean Burke has done, because the goaltending was as close to flawless as you can get. He's got his work cut out for him this year because of injuries as well.
Yeah.
But the goaltending, I would say from other than who's our former goaltender from 2 years ago who's no longer with the team?
Marc-Andre Fleury?
No.
Oh, you're talking about
Robin Leonard, that idiot.
Robin Leonard.
That idiot.
Robin
Leonard,
here in the studio.
besides Robin Leonard, who is an absolute disaster and a nutcase and a distraction, the goaltending has been nothing but superb from the start.
You got to give Berkey a lot of credit. Look, Sean Burke, and by the way, very affable, very approachable guy.
Oh, great guy, yeah.
One of the nicest guys that's on the staff with the Vegas Golden Knights, and he's done a tremendous job. And look, and to be honest with you, Butch and Cassidy and the rest of the coaches give Sean Burke a lot of credit. For what has transpired over the last, obviously the last 8 to 10 months. They win a Stanley Cup, back in the spring. So there's no question that he is a huge asset to to this Vegas Golden Knights team. But look, there's no question, right, Brian? This is a team that's faced bumps in the road. They are the Stanley Cup champions, but right now, they're not the best team in the NHL. There are a handful of teams that are better hockey clubs than the Vegas Golden Knights. It's just a fact. And particularly in the Western Conference. I mean, you're talking about the likes of Edmonton, Colorado, even the Dallas Stars. There's teams that are absolutely on par or in the neighborhood. The Vancouver Canucks have had a tremendous year. So it is not going to be, cakewalk's the wrong word. It is not going to be easy whatsoever, even if Vegas makes it into the playoffs, to be able to repeat as Stanley Cup champions.
By the way, I don't get a chance to talk about this much on the show these days, but I went to my first Ignite G League game. Yeah. As much as I love basketball, I just haven't had the time to go over there on the other side of town, but I really enjoyed myself. The team's terrible as far as coaching. I'm not going to say any nice things about the coaching staff. Head coach just all right, I'll reserve some things
so how about
privately.
This, Brian?
But
let's talk some hoops, though. Okay, so obviously NBA All-Star Weekend this weekend.
Yes, I did watch the game
in Indiana.
Yep.
Your friend actually was part
Vivica
of
was there, yeah.
the
Vivica
festivities.
Fox,
Eastern Conference scores 200 points in the game, but everybody was talking about one specific thing, Brian Shapiro, when it came to All-Star Weekend, and that was the competition between Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Curry in the three-point shooting contest. Of course, a lot of things brought up that Sabrina was using the women's ball, and you had a lot of people that are basketball fans or talking heads, and one of our friends, by the way, who had an issue with Sabrina using the women's ball, and with the kind of the whole theme, basically, of having WNBA players competing with NBA players in something like a three-point shooting contest. So I got to get your take on what you thought about what happened on Saturday in Indianapolis when it came to that matchup.
Okay, so I sat on the floor for the WNBA finals with Vivica. I was a few feet away from Sabrina. Couldn't make a shot. She looked terrible in the WNBA finals. She's a good athlete. She's a good female basketball player, good shooter, of course. This is embarrassing, and I'm not coming from the point of being a chauvinist. Stop trying NBA players compete with NBA basketball players. If you want to cry equal playing field, then give Sabrina a men's basketball. For those of you that are unaware, the women's basketball is much smaller than a men's basketball, hence much easier to make a basketball shot when the ball is smaller. Stop it. It's nonsense. There is no comparison. Stop trying. Why don't we have WNBA players jump on a trampoline in a dunk contest? Is that going to be next? Because that's what you're doing when you give a woman a ball that is smaller than a men's basketball. Let's do a dunk contest with Brittany Griner and all of them and let them jump on a trampoline. Would that be fair? Because that's what you're doing in a shooting contest. I've shot with a women's basketball compared to a men's ball. There's no comparison, okay? Just stop it. It's nonsense. And listen, Sabrina seems like a very nice lady, even though I lost a lot of respect for really everybody on their team when they wouldn't talk to the press after losing the WNBA finals. Like, what a joke. I have respect for his game, and he's got a lot of respect for mine. Okay, that's great. That's great. But you are not an NBA player, and if you are not an NBA player or former NBA player, you have no business, in my opinion, being a part of the NBA All-Star Weekend. You are in the WNBA, and there is a reason. While I support the Aces, I love Becky Hammond. A'ja Wilson, phenomenal athlete. I enjoy covering the team. I enjoy going to the games. There is a reason why the WNBA All-Star Game never sells out. It never sells out. It wasn't sold out here, okay? The NBA All-Star Game is always sold out. There's a reason for that, and there's a reason why the WNBA loses money every year. 27 years in a row, the league has lost money. I'm not saying the Aces have lost money, but the league loses money as a whole every year. There's a reason for that, because the product is not good enough. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy going to games. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy covering the team. I do. These are good people. I enjoy it. Becky Hammond, really good coach. It's a lot of fun. So I know I'm giving you a long answer here, but it is an embarrassment. A women's basketball should not be a part of the NBA All-Star Weekend, period.
I know we're coming back to the end of the show here, so I'll make my comments quick. Look, I'm not so harsh as you are as far as saying, well, I don't think they belong there, right? When you're talking about, Sabrina Ionescu or A'ja Wilson was there. Obviously, Kelsey Plum was in the building as well, too.
I'm not saying you can't be
look,
there and watch.
No, I'm saying be there. Yeah, but look, the whole point of it was it's supposed to be about entertainment. It's supposed to be about gender diversity, essentially, right? You're trying to promote the game of basketball. Yes, it is absolutely positively correct that the NBA and the WNBA are apples and oranges, okay? They're not the same. It's a different game, okay? There's no question about that. But I do also get why the NBA and especially the WNBA wants to be a part of All-Star Weekend because it promotes the game of basketball. So I don't necessarily have a problem with them being there and competing. But again, I would probably echo your sentiment regarding she should just use regular basketball, right?
Use a men's ball.
By the way, a lot of these women grew up using a regular basketball, right? They just started using a women's basketball, the last 5, 6, 7 years, maybe 10 years. Right. So I would lean that way, especially if you're in what's basically a competition, right? Where you're competing in a 3-point shooting contest.
Like giving
I think it should be on an even
field. It's like giving a female a trampoline in a dunk contest, okay?
Yeah.
It takes away from this isn't the WNBA All-Star Game. You could use any basketball you want there. I don't care.
Right.
This is the NBA All-Star Weekend. When I think of 3-point contest, I think of what Larry Bird accomplished. I think of a lot of great 3-point contests. And the WNBA wasn't around then. I understand that. But the story should be about the NBA players and Steph Curry competing against other NBA players. It shouldn't be WNBA players in there. So I disagree with you. WNBA All-Star Weekend, guess what? I don't want NBA players competing.
No, but it's not just basketball players though, Brian. There's celebrities that are there.
I understand.
Your friend was there, and there's a celebrity game. So it's not just about
I'm not talking about
NBA players.
I'm not talking
the event is about entertainment.
Chris, I'm not talking about the celebrity game. The celebrity game has been going on for a while.
Well, it's part of All-Star Weekend.
What I'm talking about is the history of the 3-point contest, okay? That's what I'm talking about. In the history of the 3-point contest, I don't think the WNBA should be involved in that at all. I'm not talking about the celebrity game. They've been doing that, and there's a history of that for years.
For a long time.
And I have no problem with that at all. Those aren't. It's a celebrity game. That's what it is. This is the 3-point contest. It's not the WNBA 3-point contest. They can do whatever the hell they want on their weekend. This is the NBA 3-point contest. A women's basketball should not be used in the NBA 3-point contest, and I believe it is an embarrassment. Period. It's an embarrassment. With that being said, the Aces are a very good basketball team, and I hope they win the WNBA championship again. And
they're the best in the WNBA.
Yes.
They're the best women's team in the world, really, right?
They are. They are. I grew up in Connecticut.
Wilson's the face of the league now, so
that's
good.
I grew up with a lot of women's basketball, UConn women, so Gino Auriemma, so I understand. We'll see what UNLV can do, by the way, on the road.
Not going to be a cakewalk against Air Force.
No, I mean, listen, basketball is a game of matchups, and UNLV defeated New Mexico, good basketball team, defeated them twice this year. Kudos to them. Basketball is a game of matchups, and Air Force forces you to come out and play defense. They got guys that can shoot the three. They're a terrible team, but they got guys that can shoot the three, but they do force you to play defense. So I expect UNLV to rebound, literally and figuratively, and we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Chris, the residential PTL liberal, joining us in studio, looking like a Smurf today, but that's okay. I owe Chris some lunch. I appreciate you being here, Chris, on a Monday night.
Absolutely. It's a good time, and enjoy the rest of the week, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, Chuck.
Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place.